I've just got to try it out, get the the finish way of it all. Is it now?
Jeanette is very strongly.
It's still warm. I only lasted you. It's been 2 6. Like that. Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to do that.
It's just like 21 days. I've already lost weight last week. I've already gone
Hello everyone. Welcome to the final 1 o'clock for Merja. Yes. Wonderful to see everybody here tonight. I just want to introduce Merja to those of you who haven't been here before. Merja is a qualified master therapist. Her grandmother was one of the first therapists in Finland, so she's been practicing therapy for most of her life. She also holds a degree in equine science. Anything that she teaches, she has either experienced herself or it has been researched. So she's researched it through science, or she's experienced it herself. She also works with conscious business owners, works closely with them to build their businesses and to allow them to deliver what they want through their business and become successful. Merja's personality type is in the top 1 to 2% for interpersonal intuition. She has a rare ability of really understanding what people are feeling. She can put herself into their shoes and just really understands where they're coming from and how they're feeling. So it's amazing. Tonight's topic is personality types. So I'll welcome Merja now. Come through.
Wow, lovely. Great to see you, Sam. Sorry. It's okay. Okay, so personality types. Did you ever, let's get straight into it. Did you ever think that, God, I wish that person would get what I'm trying to say, and they clearly don't. They clearly have no idea what I'm trying to say, and it doesn't matter what I say because it's not going to go through. Anybody relate to that? Yeah. So this being the last 1 o'clock, I thought we'd do something that's, again, practical. I like always. All these workshops are about practical stuff. And something also that we can take away from tonight and bring it into our everyday lives and kind of change patterns and change things for ourselves a little bit. Tonight I'm going to be focusing on 6 different aspects of types of personality, because there's many different ways of doing personality type tests. You can do Enneagram, you can do the Myers-Briggs, all these different types of ways of testing your personality type. But what I'd like to do, because we only have an hour today, what I'd like to do is make sure that we're getting something really that we can implement in our lives, is straightforward, easily understandable, because if you have any questions at the end of this, then you're totally welcome to ask any questions if anything's not clear. So I don't want to make it too complicated. I'm not doubting any of your IQ, just to be clear, but I just want to make sure that it's clear as day. So you can take it, implement it, and take it from there, be happy. So the 6 aspects that we're focusing on today are feminine and masculine, introvert, extrovert, and left brain, right brain. Okay. Any questions so far? Pretty clear. If you look at all of those different things, they're kind of, I put the verses as a bit of a joke because, you know, it's kind of funny because this tends to be the norm, feminine versus masculine. But seriously speaking, very different kinds of traits, very different kinds of essence. So we have the gender essences here, which on its own, if we understood gender essences, if that was taught to us in school, imagine how much more equipped we'd be to deal with relationships with the other gender growing up. Whereas now we kind of just have to learn it for ourselves, and if we don't learn it, then it's kind of tough until you're an adult, and then you can study it yourself. Introvert and extrovert, obviously, again, kind of the opposites. One being focused inwards, the other focused outwards. And left brain and right brain. So obviously, again, kind of calculative side versus creative side. And I'm going to be really extremely general with tonight's presentation because we only have an hour, as I said. So we just need to take it from there. So, where should we start? Let's start with feminine and masculine. Get straight into it. Flesh it out. So, what are the traits of the feminine, and what would be the counter trait of the masculine?
Feminine is about space. Decorating space.
Filling space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emotions.
Filling space. And masculine is creating space. So emptiness. Yeah?
What do you mean by that, Merja?
I'm so glad you asked. The masculine needs, because we're going to go into it a little bit now because of that question, so what some of these characteristics will be listed now, okay? Or these ones. Masculine, because it's often direct line thinking, one thing at a time, whereas the feminine can be multitasking. The masculine needs to create space in order to be really focused, to be able to really focus on that one thing that they're doing. So they need to get clutter away. Does that explain it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, you know, if you have a fight in a relationship, the feminine wants to keep talking about it and the masculine just wants to leave. That's a real life manifestation of that example. So, what's next then? What did we just...
Emotion.
So I'm just going to say emotional, and that's going to cover things like ability to feel the emotions on a deeper level, yeah, being able to communicate it, so all of that. So emotional in this context is not a negative, yeah? And I would say probably with masculine it's more stoic. Would you agree with that? Is that right?
Yeah.
So, the feminine, because of our brain structure, the female brain structure, so, okay, back up. About 80% of the female bodies are feminine in their sexual essence, also in their physiology. About 10% are masculine of women, and about 10% are neutral. That 80% that has the feminine essence brain, the brain structure is different to the male, mainly in the corpus callosum area, which is the kind of the relaying messages center of the brain between the left and the right hemisphere. And with women, it's more defined, faster, able to pass messages faster across. What this means is that women go through emotions faster than men usually, but they also are able to deal with the implications of the emotions faster, and they're able to understand it. And because we have, as women or feminine women, have this ability to feel the emotions really quickly, get through them and understand them, we also feel them a lot more quantity-wise, which means that we get, for the lack of a better word, desensitized to feelings, which means that when we're feeling an emotion, it's not such a big deal. We just feel it and get over it, pretty much. So what will happen is that with the corpus callosum being faster that way, the opposite of it is the male's or the masculine's ability to really focus on one thing at a time. So, and emotions are not felt as often and not as a deep level. And this is not to say that this is always the case, because when anybody is grieving, they're feeling deep emotions. When anybody is really happy about something, they're feeling deep emotions. This is not to highlight any negatives or that anybody is in any way handicapped compared to the other. It's just complementary essences, really. And what happens with them, with the masculine, is that they are a lot more stoic, a lot more constant, a lot more, yes, absent at times, but they need to deal. So when the masculine deals with emotions, they need to go away and feel into it to the intensity that they do with any one thing that they focus on predominantly. Does that make sense? So what happens then is they deal with that one thing and then come back. Who's witnessed that? You've pissed the man off, he's gone off, he's dealt with it. It may have taken, feels like forever, right? Because the corpus callosum, we really need to like communicate and everything with, you know, all the time with others. Whereas men don't have that kind of need to have a community and so on.
They go into their man cave.
Man cave.
Women from Venus.
Yes. I actually got my partner a birthday present this year that says his name and man cave, his sign. It's a metal one. I got it cut by somebody. He fucking loved it. So if you want to honor your man, give him space and symbolic things about the space. Okay, did anybody have a question?
No, you kind of answered it when it was when women just want to keep talking about it. It's because they're processing it rather quickly, whereas the man doesn't have that ability. So
it's too much.
They can't. Yeah. So in that situation, how do you deal with an argument? I mean, yes, give them space, but it's probably not resolved.
As much as men could do with learning to deal with their emotions a bit faster, women could do with learning to back off. Yeah.
Say what you want to say, one thing at a time.
Yeah, and not necessarily, like, honor the fact that somebody's not able to deal with it right now. It's like the baby learning to walk again. You won't go and smack them across the back of their head just because they fell over. It's like, okay, let's just relax, everybody. And if you need to talk about it or if you need to externalize it, write it down, you know, but don't send it to him by email or text. Do it for yourself.
I was just thinking that could be an actual solution.
Yeah.
When you're having an argument, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of discipline to actually stop the argument and say, right, you go over there and write some shit down, I'll come over there and write some shit down, then we'll come back together.
Yeah. And I mean, if you have a really conscious man, he will look at you when you're all like frazzled and say, sweetheart, go and have a bath. So it won't even get to the argument. But yes, and to be honest, no amount of argument is worth dishonoring your partner when they need space. If you're an introvert, who here knows that they're an introverted person? You know how you need space? Like if somebody's in your face all the time, you just need to like go over there and do your own thing and not be talked at all the time. And that's exactly how most men are feeling when you're in an argument. Because women are always right. because they have the upper hand, because they're already dealing with the emotions a lot faster, so they get over it a lot faster. But it's not actually an upper hand, and nobody's right or wrong, it's just very different. Any questions so far? Okay, what else do we have? Feminine?
Creativity.
Mm-hmm. Creation?
Yeah.
Now this is going to be very interesting because I'm going to put something else into that same category, and that is destruction.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually the same process. Anybody not understand what I mean? Do you want me to clarify? Yeah? Okay. In order for you to create something, something else needs to destruct. And I will give you examples why and how, because it'll make it easier to understand. Okay, but what a man does, what does a man do? What does the masculine do? It just keeps building on top of what's already there. Because yes, women are creative, but men are also creative, but in a different way. So if we're talking about creation, it's really the fluctuation between creation and destruction that I want to point out here, whereas with men, it's just building. Step by step. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next? Who knows what I'm talking about? It's almost like they get offended, men get offended if we try to destruct something in order to rebuild it in a better way. Can anybody relate to that? Whereas they just want to keep going, the next step, because they're on this tunnel. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So in fact, we are all creative, just in very different ways. And this is a very step-by-step. So how would I say this? Like consistent building, or what's the word?
Probably you're saying step-by-step.
Step-by-step building. Yeah.
Construction.
Construction, yeah.
I'm thinking one-track mind.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, I don't know if I've got this wrong, is it more like paradigm shift, like looking outside the box? Like, is that what you were talking about when you were saying one-track mind? Like,
For whom? Who's outside the box?
well, I'm
The feminine.
creation, destruction. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not.
I'm really.
I think, but I don't see this as feminine, masculine. So I'm not sure I've quite grasped it properly. Sorry.
So the thing about creation, when it comes to creation, feminine and masculine are creative. Now, feminine creation is very different from masculine creation. Feminine creation is fluctuation and really like going for it on many different angles. It's the whole thing like the multitasking. We're able to see angles, and perhaps that's what you were asking about. Is it like outside of the box thinking? It can be. Now, there are some men who are brilliant problem solvers who can think outside the box as well. So from that point of view, I don't know. But the step-by-step building in the masculine creation is very much continuing where you left off. Whereas the feminine is like, okay, that's not working. Mm-hmm. You know when you've had it? Women? I mean, men fly off the handle just as well as the next girl. Even better sometimes with the testosterone boost. But yeah, it's just different form of creation. And women and the feminine is often quoted to be more creative for this reason. The feminine mind obviously translates information faster, so it's able to skip. But the feminine mind is not as judgmental, is more allowing than the masculine mind, because the feminine essence needs to allow expansion. If you think of carrying a child, your body needs to be able to facilitate. But also, in terms of building a community around you, which women need, on a really innate level. Women need a community of people around them that she knows that she can connect with and maybe rely on from time to time. Women are a lot more allowing because they're not blinkers on. I'm using really gross generalizations here. Any men who are watching this video, I'm on your side, but I'm also on their side. So it's not to criticize, it's just, that's just 80% of men are like this, 80% of women are like this. Then there are women who are very masculine, say for example, because you're different areas of life, you're a different way. So you could be at work and be extremely masculine and then go home and be the most nurturing feminine mother to your family. So there's really no limit. But then if you look at it purely from the masculine point of view, they have 10 times more testosterone than women. But with that comes this getting the shit done. And it's often also related to providing. So providing for your family. And usually at this point, there's going to be some feminist in the crowd who says, I don't need a man to provide for me. And I'm not saying that you do, I'm just saying that, you know, you can work together, and that's the inherent essence of the masculine, is to actually provide. Yes, the modern woman can survive on her own, but why would you want to? That's all I'm saying. Because men have some really, really great benefits. What kind of pipe cleaning are you up to? She's getting her pipes cleaned by a snake. We should do a hot seat event.
So is the feminine say a nurturing and a masculine are productive? Is that?
You could say that. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it comes back to the pure physiology of us being able to carry the child, which, who here has given birth? Who has had a child? Or, yeah, okay. So, you know, when you're giving birth, your body is opening up, you know, contractions, water breaks, contractions, whatever way. Some people have a more traumatic birth than others. You know, you might have to have a C-section, whatever. But the thing about it is that when that child is in your arms, it's like an instant falling in love on a body level. Who would vouch for that? And if it's not, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that the ability to get into that space has been blocked. It can be physiological, it can be psychological, it can be whatever. Same thing with breastfeeding. We naturally, as women, unless we have a block, are able to produce milk, which is very nurturing for the child. So yes, on a body level, on a brain structure level, on a hormonal level, we are more nurturing, for sure. Just kind of comes with the meat suit. Whereas the masculine they can't do any of this. You know, the man who, like, if you're able to, the bonding that comes with feeding the baby, whether it's with breast or whether it's with bottle, men love to have that ability to bond that way because they don't have the physiological ability to breastfeed. It's so amazing. I've had so many conversations with new fathers going like, a friend of ours had a baby last week, and he's just like this size. He's gorgeous. And what they're doing, I don't know if this is useful for you guys, but what they're doing is they're extracting the milk so that the father can also feed the baby. However, they're taking turns. They're getting like 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, each of them. It's brilliant. What a great idea. And then you have the bonding, you have the rest. I've never seen new parent so rested in my entire life. In fact, there was somebody who'd been on a long-haul flight who I saw on the same day, and he's like 23, and he looked more tired than the parents I'd seen a couple hours before. I was like, that's really amazing. So yes, creation, or part of the creation is also nurturing, but it is from a physiological point of view. The psycho-emotional side of the nurturing is the connecting into a community, and again, it's along the lines of the allowing, just allowing more space for everybody to come into it and be included. And you could say the feminine is more inclusive. Would you say that? Yeah. Cool. I need to move on to the next one because I could talk about this for a whole weekend, but we won't. So, any questions on the feminine masculine side of things? If you were to take anything away from this workshop today in that feminine and masculine difference point of view, the space is what I would say number one. Allowing the man space, but also as a woman, realizing that you need communication and connection, and it's your responsibility as a mature person, hopefully, all of us, to look for the communication somewhere where it's welcomed, not to force your partner to do the communication. And if you happen to have a male partner that wants the communication and you don't, encourage them to have communication with other people throughout the day. So that that feeling of wanting to communicate is satisfied. It's so important to honor that, as it is important to honor that the other person may need space. Okay. Shall we do the brain next?
Yes.
What are you going to say? No, let's not do the brain. Okay. Now we have the question of creativity. So could we have a person who's thinking outside of the box if we start from the creativity? Because creativity is very right brain kind of feeling. So I'm going to put it down here. So the left brain is very methodical. Yeah? So already, if you think that women think more outside of the box or are more allowing, you can have an extremely methodical woman who is not as creative as a man who is right brain. So I've just basically fucked everything out of the window that I just said. But then if you have a feminine person who is very right brain, that's like the Mediterranean type. So talk about Mediterranean type. Where's the Mediterranean girl? Where's Lisa? Lisa! Do you know what I mean? Flamboyant, emotions, energy, beautiful, right? Unless it's in the destructive, unless she is in the destructive. And it's going to be fucking full on. Okay? And then we might have the methodical feminine, the left brain feminine, who has everything completely under control. And you know, there's that joke about, I'm not good at jokes by the way, but let's see what happens. Let's play it out. This is the post on Facebook that says a child asks, or a man asks, sorry? A man asks the child, do you know what a daddy is? No, do you know what a man is? And the child says, oh no. Again. The child asks the father, what is a man? And the father says, the man, you know, gets everything done, organizes everything, is really focused and everything, and the boy says to the dad, so that's mom. So you can have a really left brain methodical feminine and it be just as productive as the masculine. Now, we haven't taken into consideration the hormonal cycle of the feminine. Because of course, different times of cycle, we have different levels of energy and also ability to focus. There is like regular pain in our lives, which already allows us to feel feelings more regular. Like once a month, we actually have an opportunity to look at our shit. How great is that? What else is left brain?
Intuition and logic.
Logic. Right brain, intuition. One could argue once more, masculine and feminine. But why do women have more intuition than men? Why is it perceived that way?
They can see more. They read body language and.
The female brain, because the corpus callosum, is able to detect the most minute facial expressions, a little wrinkle there, a little, like tension there, and translate it to meaning something according to their own emotional bank. Whereas masculine often just sees past it and kind of goes like, well, this is what you need to do. Did you ever just want your partner to hold you and they were trying to give you a fucking solution to your problem? Yeah. It's not great. But sometimes the solution is exactly what you need, depending on the... Yeah. Actually, there's a generation of children growing up not being able to relate to their mothers because the mothers have had Botox. Because they can't go frown anymore. So it appears to the child that this kind of an emotional lash, which is punishment, is coming out of nowhere. Not to bash Botox, but why would you put that into your body? It's a nerve toxin. Just saying. Do what you need to do. But know that your children might be scarred. The emotional baggage I'm putting on you all now. Okay. So intuition, actually, you know that saying woman's intuition? Yeah, but it's not actually intuition either. It's just reading signs and being able to process them really quickly. And then there's this type of personality that Kay was talking about me, who can physiologically, well not physiologically, but in a space of energy, move into another person's body and feel the feelings, the cellular memory and all that's going on for the other person. So it can go up to that extent, up to and more, we don't know. I don't consider myself being a fully evolved person, but this is what I'm doing now, so maybe in 20 years' time I might be having a different conversation. But there is an intuition that goes past logic. Logically, I'm not going to be able to go into your body and just look into your brain and see what you're thinking, but on a energetic level, do you call it intuition? I don't know. What do you call it? There's nothing logical about it. But again, maybe in 20 years' time, it could be completely like out in the open and completely logical, and we know why. What else? Calculative, emotional. So a person who's in a left brain state is able to make calculated decisions, whereas a person who's in a right brain state will just do whatever her emotions or his emotions are telling them to do, regardless of the consequences of their actions. Right brain people also tend to be faster to react, whereas left brain people are slower to react. Now, when I'm going to bring in the introvert extrovert thing, this is really going to confuse you.
Probably the other way around.
What?
Faster and slower.
In what way?
The sort of person who's more methodical would be able to think of the next step quicker than someone who's seeing their emotions and getting confused.
Thinking of they're more intuitive so they can react more quickly, isn't it? Because it's not following a set plan if it's reacting to something unperceived.
I'm just using the right brain at the moment.
No, it's perfect because that's exactly depends how you look at it. If it's constructive stuff, definitely faster, because you don't get distracted from your course of thought. But on a physiological level, right brain people are usually like on it, doing it all the time, reacting into things and doing things because they're reacting into things and they know that they kind of need to do this or that next. Whereas the left brain people go like, so today I'm doing this, and this, and these are the times of the day that I'm going to do them, and this is maybe first priority, whatever, and then they go, okay, time for a cup of tea. Sound familiar?
Don't throw anything else into the mix.
Yeah, if anybody tries to throw things into the mix, the left brain person usually goes like, no, can't do it today. Let's book it in for another day. Whereas the left brain person will go like, oh my God, I need to do this. What am I going to do? Then I'm going to be late, and then the kids are going to stand on the side of the road, and then I have to stop in a no stopping zone. To get them because I'm running late. So, whereas the left brain person knows exactly where they're going to park. They've told the children. They have a map if they can, if it's the first time, and then they will all be all nice and calm, and they come. The other one, the right brain has a police officer pulling next to her and rolling down the window, pointing at the sign that says no stopping. Can you fucking read?
I was thinking, sorry.
I was just say, I think I start off with the left brain and end up in the right brain by the end of the day.
No, I'm thinking I'm right brain. All the top three things are definitely me, but I'm very slow to react.
There's also the right brain, like when a right brain person is pushed to the limit, they can go catatonic, which means people could say procrastinating. So it's not exactly, it's not exactly right. But then again, if you think about something that you really enjoy doing, you don't procrastinate about that.
No.
Things just tend to take over. And if you do procrastinate it is a form of depression, depressed sense of self, which may mean that if you're having difficulty getting going in anything, that you might just really be quite depressed without it being acknowledged and you're nurtured back into health. And often when we have a conflict in our head, between our head and our heart, we are in that depressed sense of self form. Doesn't mean that you're depressed, that you need to get medication. It just means that you may need to just nurture yourself a bit more and do the things that are fun for you and do the things that are right for your heart or do the things that are right for your head. But often we have this internal dialogue that's saying, should be better. That's not good enough. And no matter what you do, it's not going to be good enough. So why would you try? If you're not organized enough, why would you try to do anything? But the thing is, of course, that it's not that you're not organized. It's just that you're not organized in a specific area of your life. Because the thing about things that you're passionate about, you're very organized. usually. And the things that you don't give a crap about, why would you be organized? I'm always going like, I don't understand this technical thing. I'm not a technical person. And my partner says, it's because you don't give a shit. And he's absolutely right. I don't, and I'm not. Very simple.
So procrastination is not left or right.
It can be either, but usually it would be more of the right brain thing because you're overwhelmed. It's kind of like a produce of being overwhelmed. Because if you're not overwhelmed, there's no reason to procrastinate. Things just flow. Anybody relate to that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any questions on this before we move on to the best one, the introvert, extrovert?
So are you definitely left brain or you're definitely right brain?
No, it depends on the subject. So in some subjects, okay, here's an example. I've made a lot of money in my life, and my reason being I was so afraid of not having enough money. Okay, so that was my driving force. Now, my father was an alcoholic, and he drank all our money, so my mother was working, he was drinking, and I remember going to the bank with my mother, and she felt all the way in going into the bank, she was afraid that there wouldn't be money there for us to take out and to buy food. So moving, like there's evolution on any subject between the two brains, depending on what you're able to take in and learn. Having been brought up with that, even when I was making like thousands a week, I literally had 2,000 euro in my wallet one day as I was going to the bank, and I got this feeling that I'm not sure if I have enough money. It makes no sense. There's no sense to it, but it's that emotional right brain thing. Shit, I don't know if I'll have money. I had $2,000. And then, whereas now it's like, I don't care where the money comes from. It comes from all kinds of places. I know it's coming, and I know I can make it. I don't have a problem about money. I don't worry about going into my internet banking, to check how much is in the account because I know there's money there. So that's evolved already from real extreme right brain, physiological feeling of sick in my stomach going into the bank thinking that I have no money. Psychologically knowing I have $2,000 in the wallet. So everything evolves if you allow it to. But then on other things, for example, my work, I never felt uncomfortable about the work. I never felt right brain. Oh, what if I don't know what I'm doing? When I was doing body work, I knew exactly what I was doing. And it was very left brain, and to the point where I got famous for sacking clients because they weren't doing the homework. So if you're not doing this, and this, I'm not seeing you. It's how it is. And, so I've never actually felt right brain about work. That's not true. I do feel right brain about work if I'm employed. I'm not a very employable person. It's completely out of control for me. So I can't work for other people. Okay, did that answer the question? Any other questions before we move on? Excellent. This is my favorite. Oh, I'm an introvert. Okay, start again.
Introvert.
Yeah. Introverts unite! Quietly at their own homes. Now, who here is an introvert? Who's an extrovert? Okay. Who doesn't know? Could be anything. Random stuff. Okay. What do introverts?
Between two.
You're between two.
Depending on circumstances.
And subject, probably. Yeah. It's so situational. You know it. You're fine. Okay. So what do introverts generally do? Hi. Yeah, that's a good one. I was going to write something else, but that was so good I had to write it down. So what's the opposite of hiding? Exposing.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, shiny. So, introverts find comfort in reflection. Internal reflection. Yeah?
Yeah, they don't want to talk about it.
No. Internal reflection. Extroverts?
I'm going to tell everyone. No, but you have to talk about it to actually decide what you're thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Do we have an extrovert there?
I own it. Yes, you do.
What can I write on the board? Extrovert.
It's thinking and talking at the same time. I don't sit and think and cogitate and then come out with
Expression.
something. It's just the brain and the mouth are connected.
I love it. It's like whir. With the introvert, it's like.
I don't just put a switch on at work. Like not knowing these things, you can adjust.
Can you see a correlation here, or a little pattern? Okay, just pointing it out. Okay, well, let's just start with those things. What would you say I am, if you didn't know me? Who knows me really well, don't answer this question. Anybody?
I would go with an extrovert.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody for extrovert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody for introvert? Yeah, you guys know me. Surprisingly, I've learned this extroversion, and I'm naturally an introverted person, but because I care so much about human beings, people, women, men, children, whatever, and how they are, I've learned these traits as well very easily, because I need that in order to communicate with the other person. Introverts usually come to a conclusion and then give you a very short answer. So they take their time to come to a conclusion and then they give you a short answer without elaborating too much. Extroverts, they'll just give you their opinion without thinking about it, and that's not a negative thing necessarily. It is actually a very life-giving form of expression if you can take it that way, if you don't get offended by it. And I'm not saying that it's just negative, it's also positive, because there's nothing better when you're feeling, for example, you're going into an introvert. Okay, sorry. Introvert goes to a party. First of all, they've been not going to the party, for a really long time, but it's just that they're doing it out of guilt because somebody guilt-tripped them to going. Otherwise, they wouldn't go to the party. They go to the party, and they see this extrovert person there who welcomes them like flamboyantly and makes them feel really special. They don't necessarily mean it at the depth of the level of the introvert, but it's really nice to feel a sense of welcome. Does that make sense? Introverts, can you relate to? Extroverts, can you relate to? So in order for the introvert to actually just get going, so introverts are usually slower externally than extroverts. Does that make sense? So in order for the introvert to get going in the first place, it has been a big session of planning how you're getting there, what you're going to wear that's appropriate, first of all, comfortable, and if you're taking public transport, that you're able to, like they might come in with another pair of shoes if they need to walk for a bit. Anybody relate to that? Whereas extra, because they know that there's a discomfort factor, and they feel like, oh, I just want to try and plan this as well as I can, so that I need to know when the last bus is going back, so and I won't be late, so I'll be about 10 minutes early, just to make sure that I don't miss it. Because if things get out of my control, the world will end.
Yeah.
So the extroverts go into the party. First of all, the introvert's not going to welcome the extrovert into the party. The introvert's going to drink punch in the corner on her own. The extroverts go into the party. They're kind of just going to the side of the road, and the bus will come when it comes, and it's not too, they'll be texting or whatever, they're on Facebook and just, you know, whatever. It's all very, doesn't matter what happens. They get into the party and they make sure that they introduce themselves to everybody and network and just get to know everybody and make sure that everybody's all happy and clappy and on the same wavelength. And then they don't mind. They miss the last bus. They go like, oh well, and they'll just sleep on the couch. Doesn't really bother them. Relate to that? Yeah.
Can you be both?
Yeah. Again, it's situational.
I haven't slept on many couches. Got very naked. I feel like I'm an introvert when I don't feel comfortable. When I feel comfortable, I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, I'm an introvert normally, but I'm an extrovert when I don't normally.
I've got no limitation whatsoever.
Introverts are often in their heads.
I can be an extrovert when I plan it.
Running gives me extroversion.
Such an introversion.
Well planned is half done. Isn't that interesting? So if you had an introverted woman who's extreme, you have an introverted woman who is right brain. Yeah, and they have an extroverted man who is left brain. Probably an accountant. Likes to go out into the pub, watch sports, whatever. So what I'd like to invite you guys to do is identify yourself. In the situations, pick a situation and take that as an example in your either in your relationship or your relationship with your parents or with your friends. Pick a friend, pick a parent, pick a person, and just see yourself. When am I introverted? Take that situation. Am I introvert or extrovert? Are they introvert or extrovert? Are they left brain, right brain? Am I left brain, right brain? Am I in my feminine? Am I in my masculine? Are they in their feminine? Are they in their masculine? And see what happens. And you can already see how many moving parts there are. So you need a book. All the introverts need a book on this they can refer back to and plan it and then take notes in situations. Like me. So winging it to an introvert is like last week's presentation was pretty good. So take your partner or a friend or a parent, take that person for a moment and think about a conflict situation, because they're the juiciest. Conflict situation. You want his attention, he's not giving. Okay. You are in your feminine. You want attention from your presence from your masculine partner, which is the masculine essence as well, presence. and they're not giving it to you. And then you start in really creative ways trying to manipulate the situation so that you're getting the attention without seeming like you're badgering them, but of course you are, and they're calling you on it because they're masculine and they're like, that's bullshit. And you get offended and upset and emotional. He doesn't love me. He doesn't understand me. Be that as it may, he may not understand. It's unlikely that he'll understand you because our perception, if anybody else, is magnificently skewed at best. Who knows whatever is going on in anybody else's head. So when you get into a conflict situation next time, ask yourself these questions. Where am I? Have I been stewing on it for 3 days, which means that you're introverted? Did I just lash out and just tell them where to put it? Very extroverted thing. Was I in my feminine, needing a sense of community and companionship and compassion? Or was I in my masculine, just trying to get the shit done that needs to be done in order for us to all sit down and have nice dinner because everything's done and we can relax? Not pointing at anybody who identifies themselves with that. Usually people with 3 or more kids. With all different hobbies and so on. Yeah. Any questions on this?
I heard someone say once that an introvert can be an extrovert when they talk about something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
I find I can be like that. If it's something that I'm really interested in, you won't shut me up.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's still, you might still find that you have some words, but putting the actual essence of what it means to you, because everything is so meaningful to you as an introvert, putting that across with words can be challenging. There's always another level. I'm just challenging you here to start moving into that space because you've done a good bit of this work, so you know you're aware. So always pushing you to the edge, but not over it. Yeah, sure. Whatever you're passionate about, it's easy for you to talk about it. But we all know that person who's really into programming and they won't shut up about it, and you're like, I really don't understand what you're saying.
They're rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
They're rusty.
Does that make sense? So, really, I challenge you, next time you're in a conflict situation, whip out your notebook, introvert, extrovert, right brain, left brain, masculine, feminine. Where am I? And start identifying those times that you fall into those categories and see what the other person's doing, because we only ever get into conflict situations where there's a difference. And of course, these are all extremely complementary things. If you have that right brain, introverted woman who's painting at home, and her extroverted masculine left brain husband is at the pub, it's likely that he'll be able to teach her a bit of socializing and include her and get her out of her shell a little bit, whereas the woman can invite him to feel a bit more and look at his creative side. Yes.
Does it work when there's a couple who are both extroverted? A lot of the time they're both either in their feminine or either in their masculine, and they're both right brain?
Yeah, because you have a lot of understanding of each other. But usually in a relationship like that, there isn't much sexual polarity. And what that means is that in order for there to be this arc of sexual polarity between a man and a woman, or two partners, hetero, homosexual, whatever, one needs to be more feminine and one needs to be more masculine in order for this sexual creative power to be present. which then means that, because you know, like you have magnets, and if you put the positives together, they repel each other, or negatives together. Whereas if you have positive and negative. So yes, it's very comfortable to have a spouse who understands where you're at, but there's not that kind of passion. Unless they're both crazy, in which case there's no. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
What about the opposite, like totally opposite and negative thinking?
As
Is that too opposite to understand each other?
It can be. It really depends on people's willingness to grow in themselves and understand and accept other people. And because the feminine needs presence from the masculine, opposites attract. So the feminine feels like if you have a masculine man who's really outgoing and really like go-getter, the feminine who's in the right brain feels safe with that masculine. And then the masculine needs the feminine to rest in and to be distracted by so that they don't keep going. Does that make sense? So again, it comes down to sexual polarity. These things complement each other very much and they're attractive to one another. So if you have a man who's extremely masculine and a woman who has 3 children and becomes extremely masculine, they're going to have problems in their marriage, and the male may go and find feminine space to relax in somewhere else. Or the feminine might go and find masculine, soft masculine, feminine masculine to relax in as well. Not saying women should be this or that, men should be this or that, not saying that at all. You are what you are, be aware of it, and be aware of the people that are in your life, where they're at, and try and co-create from that, and expand those areas to complement each other.
What about if you don't have a partner, you don't have family, and you've got to look for it from other places? Yeah, you've got friends, I guess, and you can bounce off them, but you don't have anything to kind of settle into except yourself.
Nice place to settle into.
Mm-hmm.
We can take this into like a more micro level, and that is, what kind of a relationship do you have with your inner child? So when your inner child is in their feminine or in their right brain, your adult self can go and comfort that child and offer a place where she can calm down. Whereas if you're too much in your masculine, the inner child can come and, let's do this fun thing, and then you go off and do this fun thing. So you can actually have a relationship with just yourself, because it's not just yourself. I mean, that's easy, to be honest, because you're in a relationship with somebody. You need to take them as an adult as well as their inner boy. You feel like you're going 50,000 miles an hour. If it would only slow down a little bit so you can like get a foothold. We don't have more time, unfortunately, for questions. So today was the last wine o'clock, and it's been so much fun. And I'd like to thank my hostesses who have helped me to make it happen. And we did it all. What we're doing now, don't worry, if you're like getting into this work now, or if you've been getting into it already and you want more, I will be running the International Radiant Women's Club, and that is a purely online club. But what it does is it allows people from all over the planet to have access to this work, and actually for all of us to create networks just outside of our own immediate geographical location. I'm working with some really amazing women all over the world, and I would love for you guys to know who these women are. Now, I've organized in this international club, the Radiant Women's International Club, I've organized different levels on it, so everybody can basically have an opportunity to get on it. And the entry level, which is the white level, is $40 a month. It gives you access to 4.5 hours every month of material. 2 sessions like this, but only an hour and a half, so another half an hour, as well as a hot seat event. And these are all online. And then there's the second level, which is the pink level, which is really for people who are really interested in bringing themselves forward, not just for themselves, but for people around them. So this is a bit more active level. And it includes the webinars and the hot seat event and so on. But it also includes specific homework after each webinar, because I have a curriculum for the whole year. And you get, if you're at the pink level, which is $190 a month, you get your webinars, you get specific homework so that you get the most out of that webinar, of the material that we've covered. You can move forward. And then you get an hour, a 60-minute consult, one-to-one consult with me, which gives you accountability. And also for that level, for the pink level, you get a closed group. I'm probably going to use Facebook, some form of social media, where you can talk about your homeworks with the other participants. There is a limited availability for that level, because I won't have time to be doing consults left, right, and center. And then there's like an emergency level, which is the purple level, which you only really get to if you have something serious going on in your life that you need a lot of support with, because it includes all the webinars and everything, but it also has 4 one-to-one consults a month, once a week basically, just to make sure that whatever you're moving through, that you have the best opportunity to move through it as fast as you can, so that you can get on with life. It's usually people going through grief or coming out of depression, or having had some form of setback in their lives. And that is month by month basis. That is not a year. You can't subscribe for it for a year. And there is extremely limited availability in that, as you can imagine. But there are options. And of course, I'm still going to be running the 2-day Radiant Women workshops, which a lot of you are familiar with and have been happy with, I guess, because you keep coming back for more. Which are we're going through all what your personalities have, your values, your challenges, your strengths, obviously, and where to go. Sexual polarity, understanding the masculine, understanding the feminine. So a lot of the curriculum that we're covering on the international club, however, because it's in person, it's extremely intense. You who were on the course, would you say it was intense or a piece of cake?
Not intense.
Yeah. So you get that. It's not a weekly thing. It's like in your face. But then again, who came out of the workshop with 5 or 6 instant friends? Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. So, did that answer your question? Yes. Where now? That's where we're at. So, Facebook me or email me, msumiloff@gmail.com, if you're interested in joining the International Women's Club, or if you're interested in joining the next workshop is in Singleton on the the next workshop is in Zurich in Switzerland on the 26th, 27th of July. And the next one is in Australia is in Singleton on the 30th and 31st of August. And I will see some of you there. And so looking forward to it. And to everybody who's been on the wine o'clock, and everybody there who's been on the wine o'clock, that if you've been with me before, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and honor. Thank you.